All right, welcome back. This is Parenting Porcupines. We're on episode number 11. We titled it Spitballs and Personal Responsibility. The main idea of tonight's episode is knowing when and how to accept responsibility and apologize. And so I'm going to go ahead and accept responsibility and apologize right off the bat for our viewers. We're trying out a new platform tonight. It's StreamYard on a recommendation from another podcaster. And so, things might get wonky. It might look a little bit weird. There might be some things that happen that I didn't expect to happen, like showing, the wrong banner or something. So let's go ahead and take responsibility for that. Casey's in the driver's seat. I'll just go ahead and own up to it. My name is Casey. I'm living in the Midlands in South Carolina, and my daughter Holly is 12 years old. We are homeschooling, and it's not a good situation to be in as a homeschool mom if you're not good at personal responsibility. And I sort of suck at it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight, and how long it took me to come up with an example of personal responsibility, just as we were preparing for this episode. Jessica is with us from the upstate. Jessica, tell us about you and your boys.
Yeah, I live in Greenville, South Carolina. I've got two boys. One is in the 6th grade and the other one is in the 3rd grade.
All right, rock out. And Melissa is down in the Low Country. We were just talking about your upcoming campaign, Melissa. Plug for you. Those of you in Charleston, vote for Melissa. Melissa, tell us about you and your kids.
I'm down in the Low Country in Charleston. I have 3 kids. One does virtual schooling all the time, and the other 2 are in week. So hopefully there's only 5 more weeks of this, and then they can go back to school.
And good night. Why do we want to talk about personal responsibility? Well, in the last episode, we had a conversation around saying you're sorry, being willing to cop to when you're wrong, when you've done the wrong thing. And it came out of a conversation around trust. Can you trust other people in your community to do the right thing? And a lot of this has been swirling around with face masks and ordinances. And last night I got to sit with the University of South Carolina student group, the Student Libertarians, and we talked extensively about this. There's a creeping authoritarianism where people are asking the government to intervene, to make rules, and to tell us we have to do this or that, because they don't trust that the people around them are going to do the right thing. And so we said, okay, well, how do you know you can trust the people around you to do the right thing? And it starts really early when people are being taught how to do the right thing. So Jessica said, why don't we do a whole episode on that? Or maybe I did. I don't remember. We were drinking as usual. And so Jessica prepped the show notes for tonight. You had a good story about holding Jackson accountable for his behavior. So why don't you start us out with that story?
Yeah, Jackson is from a previous relationship. So I think I should start by saying that his father and I, and my husband, of course, we all co-parent Jackson. And so we have a very united front. And one thing that we do command from both of our children, but from Jackson, the 3 of us is respect of other people, respect of their property, and of course, accepting consequences for your actions, saying you're sorry, and that sort of thing. And so last year, I got a call from the principal. It was first couple of weeks of school, maybe about a month in. Some of Jackson's friends had decided that it would be a really good idea to go into the boys' bathroom and spitballs at the ceiling or wet toilet paper and throw it at the ceiling because it would stick, right? And so a teacher or a janitor, somebody from the staff walked in because they heard them all giggling or whatever, and they walked into the bathroom and there was this, toilet paper stuck to the ceiling everywhere. So I get a call from the vice principal and she says, this thing happened, and she tells me what had happened. But she said that Jackson was the only one of the boys, because I think there were like 3 or 4 boys involved in this project. And Jackson was the only one who had accepted responsibility. And in doing so, he had actually apologized to the janitor already and made various offers to help the janitor with their responsibilities as a way to make amends, which obviously I was very proud of, because as an 11-year-old boy, or he was 10 at the time, I guess, I mean, that's a pretty big, it's a pretty big thing. It's pretty mature, but one of the things that we had said, because I called his dad and I talked to his dad about it, and of course he called the school and he talked to the vice principal, and I mean, he told them that, I'll bring a ladder if I have to, and he will peel every single one off the ceiling. And so, but that story is kind of what first came to mind when we talked about doing this episode about apologizing and taking responsibility for your actions, because that's one example of that lesson that we've taught Jackson, that we've reinforced, that I was so proud to see the fruit of that labor, right? That lesson actually came through in that situation.
I think what struck me about this story when you first told it to me, and how excited I am for you and to be able to share this with other people, is the opposite of what could have happened, right? What could have happened is they could have called you and said, these 4 boys were caught doing this. Your son was with them. And you could say, my son would never have done that. There's no way my son did that. I'm sure the other boys did it, but it wouldn't have been my son, right? And there could have been this, now you're questioning the authority of the principal who is accusing these boys of that, right? There's a way that parents can get indignant when they're being accused of their children's crimes, and then therefore teach their children that the accusers are wrong, right? That the accusers can be questioned. And this goes back to, we talked a little bit, I think, in the past about my students wanting to see the exact rubric for their grade and challenging their grade. I mean, I have students that are getting a B+ that don't understand why they don't have an A. And I'm floored by this, because I'm like, well, do you know the kids who have an A? Because you're not them, right? Like, and when I give you an A and I give them an A, I degrade theirs, because your work is not nearly as good as theirs, right? But they're empowered and they're emboldened to challenge their grades and challenge the teacher, because their parents have been saying to them, the teacher must be wrong, the principal must be wrong, this authority must be wrong. So the idea that Jackson knew that had this come out, somebody was going to say, hey, Jackson, you were there. I knew you were there. And he just said, dude, it was me. I know it was me. Here's what it looks like to take personal responsibility. That's a huge win for you. And I think a different kind of parenting than the parenting that says, not my kid. My kid would never do that. What do you think, Melissa? Have you had an experience like this where your kid has had a chance to cop to something they've done or take responsibility?
We say, I have a 4th kid. His name is Nobody, and he does everything. He did it. Nobody. Who brought this up here? Nobody.
I don't know.
That's my 4th kid named Nobody.
That's my second kid. Yeah, my second kid's name is I don't know. Yeah. Well, how did this happen, Holly? I don't know.
Yep.
You're the only kid who lives here. Yeah. She's the only one who lives here. Yeah, exactly. By process of elimination. That's right. That's right. We're having a conversation right now in 7th grade. We're talking about deductive reasoning, right? And so deductive reasoning, you kind of look at what you've got in front of you and you say, this is the hypothesis. And if the facts don't support it, then, the facts must be wrong or the hypothesis is wrong. Right? So I said to her, I was like, when I know I didn't do it and Dad knows he didn't do it, you're the only one left, HB. Like so I think we default to that a little bit more, only because she's all alone. But I think it's funny, your kids, do they blame each other? Do they throw each other under the bus?
Not really. It's usually pretty unanimous that it was Nobody.
At least they stand in solidarity.
They do. Oh my gosh. But for the little things, whatever, I don't care. But for the big things, like if someone's really in trouble for something, that they're finally getting to the point where they understand, if they just tell me it was them, they're in a lot less trouble. Mm-hmm. They get in more trouble for lying and covering up than whatever they could have possibly done. Because the worst offense is lying to us and trying to cover up what you did. We're going to find out. I don't know why you think lying about it is going to help anything. So Yes.
Isn't that a
They're
phase
finally
though?
coming around to that.
Is there a phase, Jessica? Because so our kids are a little bit older than Melissa's. Well, your oldest Melissa's right about the same age as our oldest too. So there's a phase. I keep texting my best friend Jessica, whose daughter is in college now, and I'm texting her questions like, help me understand this, right? And so now I'm going to tell a story on Aubrey instead. I'm a godmother. I can do this. So Aubrey's like 13 years old. She had gotten a really beautiful set of gloves and a hat for Christmas, like, and a pretty expensive, high quality, whatever set of gloves and a hat for Christmas. They were living in, this is not while they were in Arizona. This is when they were in Pennsylvania. Anyhow, she lost them. And when Jessica asked her about them, because she had gone to school with them, and then Jessica didn't see them for several days, Jessica asked her about them, and she lied. She said she didn't know what happened to them. And so then Jessica kind of gave it a few more days, and she asked her again, and again she lied. Jessica's like, I know either you lost them or you stole them, or somebody stole them, right? But they didn't just disappear, right? So at least tell me the truth about this. And so when she was going through that with Aubrey, I think Holly might have been 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Like, she's little at the time. If she was lying, it was because she'd stolen a cookie, right? But I mean, and so Jessica said it's just this tendency to hide the truth from me and to see how much she can get away with. And it's really frustrating because if she just tells me the truth, I'm much more likely to help her through it and to be on her side and to work this out with her. But for whatever reason, she fears repercussions from me more than she fears the repercussions of lying. So it's interesting that you say that about the telling the truth is such an important deal, because it's a big deal in our house too. But we've gone through this phase, and maybe it's a middle school phase, where what's the line between privacy and lying? And what's the line between keeping something because she fears the consequences versus taking responsibility because she knows she made a mistake? And so that's why I'm so inspired by the story of Jackson just being like, that was me. I'll do whatever I have to do to fix it. Because I'm wondering, how do we really engender people? How do we help them be brave enough to tell the truth? Damn the consequences, right? Knowing that the consequences are going to come.
We've always been very supportive of Jackson. And I will say that Jackson is and I'm his mom. So people are going to watch this and are like, oh, well, of course she says that. She's his mom, But I mean, ever since Jackson was little, he has had the most well-calibrated moral compass of any child I've ever met. Like, I don't know that he's ever told me a lie. Actually, that's not true. I think he probably has one time. But I think we've always kind of gone out of our way to be open and honest in our house. And we have those conversations, Melissa, like you said, if you come clean to me and you tell me the truth, you might still have some consequences, because that's what happens when you screw up. Mm-hmm. But if you come to me and you tell me what you did, we can talk through it. We can work through it. And then, honoring that promise.
Actually not losing your shit when they come to you.
That is one of the hardest
That's
things.
The hard part.
Yes, that is the hardest thing, is honoring that promise. But I think having done that, I think that's why Jackson can say, like, hey, I screwed up. Do you want me to clean the cafeteria? I will come. I will help the janitor clean the cafeteria next week. I will sweep my hall every day after school for the next week. Whatever the janitor needs to make this right, I'll do that, because I realize that I screwed up.
But so I think you're hitting on something that's really important, though, is that not only do you stand by him, and Melissa said, don't lose your shit when they tell you the truth, but in addition to that, like, I'm an adult. I have the responsibility of self-control here. So I can't go nuts over this, right? At one point, Holly was a little kid. She might've been, I guess she was 3.5 or so when we moved here. And we had left her alone to watch her show in the living room while we were laying in our bedroom. We had an eye on her, right? Like, it's all a 1-story house. I can see her. She's not, but maybe 5 feet away, right? She comes in, she asks me, she just kind of puts her hand out, come with me, Mom, right? And I go with her, and she has taken these Melissa and Doug markers that she had that she was supposed to be coloring on the Melissa and Doug cupcakes, and she's colored on everything. The wall, the couch, the floor, everything. Yeah. And I say to her, wow, Holly, this is a mess. Like, what are we going to do about this? And her dad goes, what happened? And I was like, you should probably stay in there for a little while Holly and I figure out how to clean this up, right? It's on me as the grown-up to keep my shit together about this kind of thing. So that's number one. But the other thing I think, Jessica, is that it doesn't come back up again. Once the punishment has been meted out and once we have gotten over it, we've gotten over it. So it's not, every single time Holly's left by herself. Well, how do we know she's not going to color on the carpet? You know what I mean? Remember that time when you colored on the carpet? We're not continually embarrassing her about this, right? And that's kind of dumb, right? Because she's 12 now. Of course, hopefully she's not going to color on the carpet, right? But I mean, the idea is like, you can't continue to hold them responsible for it. You've got to deliver that justice and then go, okay, and now we're moving on. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a sense of the next time we're giving her responsibility, we shouldn't reconsider. Hey, we are reluctant to give you responsibility because the last time we did, we had these negative consequences, right? But we're not continuing to punish her over and over and over again. And I think that's the really important piece here. And society doesn't model that very well because society does continue to hold people responsible and punish them again and again and again for their past sins. I mean, all I have to say is Monica Lewinsky. And you just go, ouch, right? I mean, this is not a gal that if you get this resume in your applications, do you hire her?
Are you giving her a fair shot? Yeah.
Exactly. Are you giving her a fair shot, even though she's clearly more than paid for the mistakes that she made, right? So I think that's a big part of it too, is to be fair about that justice when it comes down.
Yeah. And I think the other important thing too, is, obviously Jackson didn't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to take responsibility for my actions.
Today's the day.
In such a way that he did. There are a lot of things that lead up to that. And part of that is letting them feel the pain of failure, right? Like when they screw up and the pain of those consequences. Another story I have, Jackson was in after school care and he had been told, I think he was in kindergarten or first grade, and they had this star system where they could, clip up, clip down, and they could end the day on whatever color star, and pink was the best. And it was really hard to get to pink. And so we had told him, we incentivized this, like, it's not a big deal if you don't get pink, all days of the week. But if you ever have a week where you get all 5 days pink stars, we'll take you to Great Wolf Lodge. And so that was like the incentive because it was super hard to get pink, right? Much less 5 days in a row. And so he had gotten pink 4 days. I mean, he was like on the verge of this thing. And he did something in after school. His elementary school had after school care that we paid for. And he did something, they were doing homework in after school, and he and his friends were being disruptive. They weren't doing their homework. It was something stupid, right? And this lady from the after school program told him that the next day he would have to start the day by clipping down, which I didn't agree with because this was an after school program. Like that, they don't make kids clip down from their time at daycare after school, right? So anyway, but he had to clip down. And as a result, he did not make it to pink. So he didn't get his trip to Great Wolf Lodge, even though he had worked so hard and he otherwise would have. And I didn't think it was fair. And we talked to him about it. We don't think this is fair, but this is what we told you. And whether it's fair or not, it's still a consequence of your actions. And so he was obviously very, very devastated by this. And he still got a reward because he did work very, very hard, but it was not Great Wolf Lodge.
Right.
And seeing him experience that disappointment and that pain, I think that was probably the hardest thing. But those situations are the things that build that character. Those are the situations where they experience those things and they realize that yeah, this really sucks, but I'm going to survive it. Like, this isn't going to kill me.
Well, and you know what I'm interested in too is when he gets in a situation, again, with the spitballs, right? That he knows early on, this is not the right thing to do. And he convinces the others, I'm not doing this and you shouldn't do it either, right?
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about.
That's the next level, holding your friends accountable for their actions.
Exactly.
That's next level, dude.
It's not just self-governance, it's leadership. And it's saying, this is not the right thing to do, and I'm not going to be part of it. And those of you who feel the way that I do, you're welcome to come with me when I walk away from this, right?
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting to see if that's how that kind of plays out too, moving forward. We've had a few conversations about Holly in the middle school and bullying. And that's been some of the conversations that I have with her about when you see other people hurting, when you see them being treated badly, when you see people saying things about them that hurts their feelings, how do you respond to that? And what do you do about that? And so we're still kind of building that skill set too. Does she have the bravery to stand up against the bullies for people that
hard.
That's
it really is. It really is. And it's harder even still to stand up against your friends when they're the ones that are doing the wrong thing. So even if you know this is the wrong thing, being able to say, I'm not comfortable with this and I'm not going to be part of it, knowing that your friends are going to leave you behind and do it anyway. That all of those things are coming. They're coming down the pipe. And how do we create or help to bolster our kids enough, give them enough confidence that they feel like they can take that kind of self-leadership and group leadership with their friends, right? I don't know. I had a pretty strong moral compass as a kid, but I had a big achievement. Like I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. And my dad hung on to that. Naval Academy doesn't accept people who do this. Naval Academy doesn't accept people who do that, right? And so I had this vision in my head of if I want to go to the Naval Academy, I have to be these things. And so that sense of who that moral character was shaped by what I wanted to accomplish. Now, I didn't go to the Naval Academy because, they didn't have a career for me ultimately. And for many, many reasons, I did not go to the Naval Academy, but that for me, my driving force was that. So how do you tap into that thing that your kid wants so bad? Great Wolf Lodge. Is it a short-term incentive? Is it a vision for the life they have for themselves? And then this is what it takes to be that kind of person. If you want to do this, you have to be this kind of person. And that person is, and it's hard, especially when the people that we're about to watch on the debates tonight, for God's sake, they're the president and the former vice. And
Okay, I'll join in.
Where do these role models come from? And part of it is, I think, and I mentioned this in our notes too, Charlie and I cop to stuff very quickly. If something has not gone right, one of the two of us takes responsibility very quickly. I have a tendency to take it even if it's not my fault because I want to get to the next place, right? Like, I'm gonna go, okay, fine, it was me, whatever, let's just move on. There are some managers, there are some people in corporate life that are just looking for somebody to blame, right? And so sometimes it's easier to just go, okay, I take full responsibility. I did not prepare these people to do the thing they need to do. Can we please just move on and make the next thing happen? Can we just take the next step forward? And so I think part of it is we model that in our house. Charlie and I both are willing to take responsibility for things. We don't apologize as quickly as we probably could or should, but we do apologize to Holly.
Well, I think that's probably, that children model what they see, right? What they see at home, what they see on TV, whoever it is that they look up to, that's what they model. And if you take responsibility for whatever the thing is, and a child sees that, that's going to shape how they take responsibility. And I think when it comes to modeling that, my husband and I are the same way. We're both very quick to take responsibility. If he is upset by something that I have said or something that I have done, I will not hesitate to apologize. And it's never, I'm sorry that your feelings got hurt. It's, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. I recognize that what I said or what I did was the cause of why you are upset or whatever the case may be. But I'm sorry that I did that. What can I do to make that up to you? How can I make that up to you? And I think that kids seeing that is really, I mean, that is probably the best teaching mechanism, right? Because it's not only something that we're telling them, it's something that they are seeing us do. And it's not only in our homes and our marriages and our relationships with our family members, but also with our friends and in our communities. You know, if you're walking down the street and you accidentally bump into someone, you know, you apologize. If you knock something out of their hand, you pick it up for them, right? Mm-hmm. You make amends, whatever that looks like. It can't just be an empty word, right? Because then you're not really sorry.
Right.
You go to the grocery store, you knock stuff off the shelf, you stop and pick it up.
You
put your cart in the cart dolly.
Please put your cart, people, if you learn nothing from this, put your cart in the cart corral.
Yep. Even if it's not my cart, if someone has left a cart, we're going in anyways, take the cart.
For those of you watching this from places like Northern Virginia, where they don't trust you to take the cart into the parking lot, the buggy, you can, in fact, in South Carolina, take your buggy out to your car. In Northern Virginia, they don't even trust you to do that.
Too.
Yeah.
Jersey, sorry.
Where is it? I was going to say Jersey. There's some state that you're not allowed to pump your own gas.
Oregon. You can't in Oregon.
But it's okay in the winter. It is quite okay that they don't let you do that.
Let me tell you something. What I would pay extra for is the person who will brush the snow off my car at the hotel.
Oh,
just put a little plug out there, Hilton people who are watching. Send your people out to get my rental car ready for me, and I will pay you extra.
If you're driving north, always get gas in Jersey because it's the cheapest gas. No matter where you're going in New England, Jersey's cheaper.
Despite the fact that they have other people pumping it. That's interesting. Yeah. I would think it would be more expensive because they have other people pumping it. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. All right. So to wrap it up, as we're getting to our 30-minute mark here, what does an apology actually entail? And I'm going to start this because I suck at them. Okay. We don't do the apologies in our house probably the way we should. We are the people that say things like, "I'm sorry you felt that way." I feel remorse over your idiocy. Makes me feel remorse. I understand that there are consequences to the things that I have done, and I genuinely do not want other people to be unhappy with me or feel like I have done them wrong in some way. And so I am willing to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like where you sort of throw yourself on their mercy in this particular way. The phrase that we use in our house is, how do I make this right? Mm-hmm. And it comes from Charlie working in retail for as many years as he did. How do I make this right? I want to make this right for you. I want to do the right thing here. I want to make sure that you feel satisfied by the end of this transaction. It's not exactly an apology, but it's a willingness to say, okay, clearly things did not go the way I thought they were going to go. Now I'd like to make it right. Help me help you, right? But it still puts it back on the person that you've harmed to then deliver, here's what you have to do to make it right. And again, that's not fair. There should be some genuine remorse or some expression thereof, and I'm willing to learn how to do that. Teach me.
I don't know. We just say, I'm trying to think how we I've never thought about how we apologize. I make the children apologize to each other, and it comes with a hug. Unless the other person doesn't want a hug, then, no means no. Don't touch them.
Can I tell you that I had a friend
who offer of a hug? How's that? That's a better.
I had a friend who, he and his brother, whenever they would fight, their dad would make them stand out on the street, and every time a car came by, they had to embrace.
My kids would live on the street.
James McCarter. They would live on the street. That was James McCarter. James McCarter's dad made them stand by the street, and every time cars coming, boys, get your arms around each other. That was it. That was how he did it. I mean, baby boomers. What are you going to do? It's like, it's not. It might have been effective. I don't know, but humiliation might not be the right method of
Yeah,
this.
I don't know if it's effective, but it's funny.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
I think
Very
it can
funny.
be a useful tactic in some situations. Maybe not all, though.
So what do you think, Jessica? What are the right words?
I don't know that it's necessarily the right words. I think that it has to come from the heart. So, because it's easy to just say, I'm sorry, right? I mean, it's easy to just say, I'm sorry. So I think if you say, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the situation. Like I don't really think there's a black and white here, but I think that, I definitely think that whatever the apology is should come with amends. It should come with some effort to make that person whole. Whatever you took from them, there should be some effort to make them whole, whether it's a hug, whether it's helping them wipe coffee off of their shoes because you knocked it out of their hand, whether it's picking up their books because you bumped into them in the hallway, or whether it's offering to help the janitor clean up the cafeteria for a week, because you know that their job is not always the easiest job, and you want to do something that's going to help make that easier as a way to show that you are sorry. So, I mean, I think amends are probably the most important part of the apology. It's not necessarily what you say, it's what you do.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I'm
Last
excited.
question.
I got stuff to put into action this week.
The last question on our show notes is, how does this particular topic support liberty? And I think it's pretty easy to see that liberty requires cooperation. And the best way to get cooperation is to demonstrate a willingness to cooperate and a willingness to trust others to do the right thing. And sometimes it can be hard, but if you have broken their trust, you'll have to earn it back. And you earn it back, I think, with apologies and a willingness to make amends. So this is good. Great topic, Jessica. Good idea. We're missing Alex this week, but we hope to see her back next month. So good luck in your campaign, Melissa. Good luck in Alex's campaign. We're coming up on Election Day. Vote, everybody. You don't have to vote gold. You should vote gold. But if you can't vote gold, at least vote. Be safe. Be good. Go out and get the show notes. The show notes are on the website at parentingporcupines.com. Thanks for being here, Jessica. Thanks for being here, Melissa. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.